Building the premier accounting firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. And for more than 3 decades, I've now been working with the accounting profession, helping individuals start and build successful businesses. It's here on the show that I bring guests, individuals that are successful in their own right, and individuals that can give us insights on how it is that we can build our premier accounting firm. And today is going to be no exception. I'm excited to have someone I've known for a number of years. It's Laura Shepard. She is the founder and owner of Momentum BK. She's also one of those who is involved with My Top Bookkeeper, a company she started, as well as MTB Management. These are actually businesses that she's run with the intent of making an impact in the field of business accounting. Now, with her innovative approach to bookkeeping, accounting procedures, she's actually elevated the standards and increased the accountability of service providers in these professions. For over 20 years, Laura has actually pursued her goal of educating small business owners to protect our small business economy and to prepare bookkeeping and accounting service providers to deliver quality and, more importantly, required expected results. So, Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Every time we speak, we have some great conversations, and today's going to be no exception. So let me dive into this. I know one of the things that you're quite passionate about happens to be pricing, and pricing typically tends to be something that other people either struggle with or have questions about it as it relates to offering accounting services. And so, first of all, I want to start with something that I know you speak of, which is pricing with purpose. And I was curious, what do you mean by that?
Well, accounting people tend to be arbitrary about how they go about setting fees. And they ask other accounting professionals, what do you do? And then they take that and take it and make it their own. That's very challenging for them to carry forward because they don't know how to necessarily explain to a client where that comes from. Pricing with purpose starts with you. You're assessing what it is that you have to sell. What are you selling to your clients? And in that, there's a whole other level of accountability because we're saying specifically what we can deliver. And this is what you're going to pay specifically for this. But we're also talking about that client's specific business. So we start with them. Pardon me.
You know, one of the things that I think is important about this is you're right. So many of us as accounting professionals hear what others may be doing, whether it's in our own marketplace or elsewhere, and we take that to be kind of like the benchmark or the standard that we're going to then start building our price point from. And one of the things that's very important is when it comes to a conversation with a client, you're right. You have to be able to explain why the pricing that you have is the way it is. And if you've actually not figured that out, it's hard to explain why you're asking for those fees. So to figure out what it is you do, the services we're offering, and most importantly, how it actually benefits the client, it helps us articulate not only why our pricing is what it is, but obviously the amounts that we've come up with. So I'm curious, you've come up with this whole pricing with purpose kind of philosophy. I'm wondering, how do accounting professionals then embrace it? How do they accept it?
Well, when we really get to understand our own business and what it is that we want to achieve, we come to it with a different mindset and a different perspective.
So why do you think accountants struggle oftentimes with the pricing then?
Well, you know what? They're still trying to assimilate to what somebody else is charging. And when we were at GrowCon, there was a huge variety of pricing conversations. And again, people are trying to, do what somebody else did, but they're not valuing or evaluating their own ability to provide services at different levels. So they really need to know who they are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And I talk a lot about, the old time SWOT analysis. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What can you build on right now? And what do you need to pursue to get you to that next level where you want to be?
Oh, I like that. That's actually a little bit more strategic then.
Exactly. It's all about strategy. And when your clients understand where your pricing comes from, they get involved. They feel more confident. And It's an amazing mind shift when an accounting client goes, okay, I get that. I understand that. I know where you're going with this, and I know how it impacts my business.
So I know that when you're actually working with accounting professionals to try and come up with the pricing, as you mentioned, there's one of the things that you have as part of your method, which is to kind of organize the services that are offered into different categories. You've got the idea of what's being done as it relates to necessary services, compliance-based services, and then the advisory level type services. Can you explain what those three buckets are?
Sure. And that's a really great question. So, in the accounting method that I've created, it's really based on history. And there's three segments to what accounting people do. First, it's the mundane task management. And truly, there's not a whole lot of value to that because most everybody can do that. And today, technology does a lot of it. Automation does a lot of the data management and task management. And so we put that into kind of bucket one. And that can be quantifiable, right? Because they only have so many transaction accounts. And when you know what kind of business they have, you understand kind of how many transactions that they're going to have and the nitty gritty, the details, the levels that you have to go to manage that data. But still, it's the mundane. And it's only the first piece of the puzzle. And there's three. So you can demonstrate to your client based on your business, this is the volume of activity and the types of transactions that you have. And here's what we need to do to manage that for you. With my pricing model, I start with a minimum of 3 hours per month. In pricing with purpose, I've also combined hourly, flat, and value. So you're going to see how the first two, hourly and flat, that's really the meat and potatoes. Okay.
Okay.
And then that third segment, those advisory level, that's not part of monthly services. That's not part of, the recurring services that they need. So we price for what they absolutely need on a recurring month-to-month basis. And then we keep those high value dollar items, the budgeting and the forecasting and the cash flow management, all of those higher level advisory services, we put those in a separate bucket. And those are choices that a client gets to make. And because you're not lumping that in necessarily with the monthly recurring services, if they decide they don't want that anymore, you're not losing the whole project. You're just saying, perfect. We're going to continue with your recurring services. And then we still have those available to you when you want to partake.
So what I hear you describing is very similar to what I refer to as menu pricing. You've already mentioned the hourly and the flat rate and the value. The other one that sometimes comes up is revenue-based pricing. But the point that I want to make is, as you're offering these things to the client, it appears like you're packaging them in a way that they're able to select and choose what they're interested in and then willing to pay for. So I'm curious, do you bundle it then so that they're able to then select maybe an ABC type choice, and in the premier package perhaps have those value added services that you're describing? Or do you maybe look at this differently than menu pricing?
Well, there's a piece to this puzzle that kind of comes later. With the momentum resources we're building, we're really building from where they are, from where the service provider is, and we're building on that. So if they're really strong in data management, then those are the services that they're going to provide. In this model, though, we do a discovery findings and recommendations call. And with doing that, we get really super specific with what it is that they need. and we can evaluate the task portion of it. And they understand now, this is what it takes just to keep my records up to date. And I always refer to IRS record keeping criteria. That's kind of an old way to refer to it because automation does so much.
Yeah.
But people forget that when the IRS calls and there's an audit involved, somebody's got to answer those questions. And we want to empower our clients to understand the data management that their business requires. And then, again, they're becoming part of the process. And then we talk about what's the month-end closing piece. And this includes compliance. And that's where I talk about the IRS burden of proof. So we're following what the IRS requires in the event of an audit.
Okay.
We're also using every automation and every tool and every platform that we can to make that easier. But the professional still understands what the details are in the background. The clients really understand that, and they know when they get their reports, I'm going to be able to explain them in detail. So we go from the data management and then into the month-end closing. And this goes into, the basic reconciliations, right, that everybody can do. But what about those external platforms? An attorney uses an external billing platform like Clio or Abacus or whatever.
Okay.
Well, there's another level of reconciliation there because attorneys on that platform, they're doing their billing for their hours. They're putting in their use of a retainer. They're managing balances for their IOLTA, okay, their interest on, oh my gosh, I just lost the acronym for it. But anyway, attorneys have to report how much they have in trust or holding for clients who have not yet gotten those services.
That's right.
That's a whole massive compliance consideration. And sometimes attorneys know what it is, but they don't know how to get there. They don't know what it means to get there and all of the steps included. When they get it and the service provider gets it, that's another way that we really increase revenue because the service provider now realizes there's way more to month-end closing than just reconciling bank accounts and credit cards and producing a P&L. You've got compliance based on the type of business that you're working with.
Yeah. So I'm curious, there's obviously a mindset shift that an accounting professional may need to go through as they're having these price considerations, as they're evaluating the services that they're offering and what they're going to be charging. So what is a common mindset shift that needs to happen for someone to make this change as they're pricing their services?
Well, I tell people, you're not a bookkeeper. You are an accounting entrepreneur who provides bookkeeping services. You're a business owner. So you have to start again with yourself and get that entrepreneurial mindset. I am a business owner and I provide services. And when you start thinking that way, you start going, wait a minute, you don't get to dictate what I'm going to charge you because that eats into my profitability. And nobody manages profitability in my business but me, right? And so that entrepreneurial mindset gives you the confidence to sit down and talk with another business owner and know your own value and have the confidence to demonstrate that. And when you can answer questions, by the way, little side note here, when you understand the basics of what any type of business needs, and you can talk about that with your potential client, then that level of confidence goes up exponentially. Like I was just using that example with attorneys. If you're meeting with a potential attorney client and you sit down with them and you say, okay, I know what you need, your basic operational accounting needs. But now there's that other compliance level. Now let's talk about what we're going to do together to maintain that compliance. So you're getting the client's buy-in. And that's so incredibly important. And they understand what it is they're paying for. They're not paying for a reconciliation and a report. They're paying to keep in compliance and know that when the hard questions come, they can answer it and you can answer it.
So I'm curious, obviously, this is something you've put a great deal of time and energy in. It's something that you're quite passionate about. I'd like to understand, having had an accounting practice and running an accounting business, this is something that you felt you needed to take to other accounting professionals. I mean, clearly this is an exercise that you could have done in your own business and applied it with your clients and been done. Why did you choose to actually now develop this as something that you would actually take to the accounting profession?
I've worked with so many accounting service providers over all of these years, and I see the way that they struggle. Every one of them struggles with the same thing.
And what would you define that struggle as?
Oh my gosh. Let's see, where can I start?
Well, keep it simple.
Right. Well, they don't know who they are. They
Okay.
don't know what bookkeeping and accounting is all about. They think bookkeeping is managing tasks. And I want to protect them and I want to protect the business owners. I'm like really passionate about protecting the business owners too. So when I figured out this methodology and realized that what we're really doing is going back to the basics, we're going back to the basic accounting management that everybody can follow. And it's about educating the service provider and the business owner. Excuse me. Pardon me. So ask me the question again, please. Bring me back.
Well, I was just
Bring me
interested
back.
in knowing why you felt this was something that outside of your own business, you would take this to the accounting profession, and you've tried to answer that, but I want to take it another step further. Clearly, you have taken it to the accounting profession. Can you share with us just an example of how someone adopting what you're discussing here was able to change what they were using as a pricing metrics, and in doing so, it improved their business. It actually affected their revenue.
Absolutely. So I have a couple of really great examples. And when you and I saw each other a couple of years ago at
Yeah.
Scaling New Heights,
Okay.
the two ladies I'm going to tell you about, they were there with me. Lene is an accounting service provider out of California.
Okay.
And my gosh, her overhead was just killing her. And she wasn't getting what she thought should get paid for what she was doing. When I showed her this methodology that we break it into segments, our data management segment, and by evaluating at a different level in a different way her client's needs, she was able to reconstruct her internal workflow, become so much more efficient in understanding what the client needs and how she's going to do specifically that. In the first 2 months, she cut $3,500 of labor cost because she reconfigured the way she delivers services. And at the same time, she also increased one of her monthly clients by $1,500. And this is not arbitrary. I'm just going to increase my fees because, it's now spring instead of fall.
Yeah.
This is really, truly evaluating what the client needs and coming to them saying, I can do this, and here's what it takes. Here's the labor, that I need to do this. I'm leveraging all of my assets to provide you with the greatest services. And being profitable on top of that. Now, Kathy, she was also with me there. She had a starting fee at $195 a month. That's too low for the smallest of businesses,
Uh-huh.
for the smallest and easiest kind of business. So in the pricing with purpose model, we have a minimum, and it doesn't matter what your hourly fee is, but there's a minimum of 3 hours, and that's for the easiest client. But now when you evaluate a client like an attorney, they're going to be a few more hours than 3. But when we start with a base amount and we can say to our client, your monthly record keeping, the IRS says it's this, your monthly record keeping to keep you in compliance with the IRS requires this, and this is what it's going to cost you on a month-to-month basis. This is variable. It's the one piece of the pricing model that's variable. You can quantify the number of transactions, the type, and the number of accounts that they have. So quantifiable can change. And it's amazing if, when you're doing a flat monthly fee and that's all you're doing, when they add something, they could add a whole nother credit card account and then come to you and say, well, I thought that would be included. It's part of my accounting. Not anymore. We
Yeah, to
capture.
change the original agreement. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, a lot of this pricing discussion that you're having with other accounting professionals obviously is related to workflow. You've got a different management style, I think, as it relates to how you operate your bookkeeping accounting business. So I'm curious, how do you feel you may be doing it differently than others?
Well, again, it's the combination of the 3 types of fees. You have your hourly, your flat, and then your value-based fees. So with task management, and as I said, that's quantifiable. So that's just one piece. And then the flat fee comes in with the monthly closing. That's recurring. It happens every month. Doesn't matter how many transactions a client has or doesn't have. Closing the books every month is required, burden of proof, IRS. So now we're combining, and the bookkeeper understands we're combining tasks with recurring services that don't change. And now I'm building my pricing with my hourly and then my flat for closing the month. And our minimum for closing the month with the easiest of clients is $250. Now that's just me, right? It can be much more for anybody else. Somebody can be charging $125 an hour instead of $65, but the methodology is the same. So
So I'm
again,
curious. So I'm curious with regards to your business. You're running a business. You obviously offer accounting services. What metrics, KPIs do you look at as you're running your company to really work on your business? Is there anything in particular that you're watching month to month to see how your business is performing?
boy, that's a really great question. And because I have, a couple of different things going on, that's a really great question that I just don't have an answer to.
That's quite all right. Well, let me ask you another one then. As you've run your business and done all this, a lot of us in our lives actually have mentors or individuals that have
Mm.
helped us kind of navigate some of the challenges that we faced as running our businesses. Have you had a mentor, a coach, someone that's actually been there to assist you in these uh, different things that you've faced that as a business owner you've appreciated?
You know, if I can answer that honestly, not really. I've met some wonderful people who are way further in their career and have different knowledge, skills, and abilities than I do. So I've been able to glean from certain people things that resonated with me that I could bring into my business.
Uh-huh.
there's so many different people, there's so many different ways, so many different approaches. Not one person has all of the answers. So I've really been able to meet some wonderful people, again, way more ahead of the game than I am, but they've given me that guidance and that confidence. When somebody else goes, wow, you really got it going on. Like if you said to me, wow, you really got it going on, I would just run with that. I'd be so happy. I'm kidding.
Well, you've got it going on. So, Laura, there you go. Here's the thing I'd like to then ask is, do you have a mantra or a quote or something that you use as a guiding principle as you're running your business, something that kind of keeps you grounded, but more importantly, perhaps motivated? Is there something that you have that's a quote or kind of a guiding principle?
Yeah. If I can't explain it, it doesn't exist.
Hmm.
So if I'm sitting down in front of a client and they're asking me about my pricing and how I come up with that or whatever, if I can't explain it with confidence, I shouldn't be saying it. When I put down a set of financials in front of a client, I will answer any question, and I can answer any question that they bring to me, because if I can't, it doesn't exist. Those financials will never go in front of a person that I can't explain it to. Can I give you a really great example on that?
Please.
Okay, so several years ago, I did this huge audit and reconstruction for a $6 million investment. And the investors for 3 years had never received any financial reports. It was crazy. So I went in, and it was a 7, they had 7 different entities. There was all of this due to, due from, intercompany craziness. And with my process, that's very step by step, I found all but $50,000. Yay. So I sent the financials, sent everything over to the CPA, and the CPA called me and said, did you capture information from this account? What account? They hadn't sent me some information, but because I was able to say, this came from here, this came from here. If you're telling me something else is out there, it doesn't exist in my world. Where is it? So we peeled back a few layers. One of the investors' assistants had kept that bank account on a desktop QuickBooks file and didn't incorporate it into the QuickBooks Online information and never sent me the statements. So when the CPA asked that question, I said, doesn't exist. And we peeled back the layers and found out I was right. It didn't exist in my world because they hadn't shared it. When you have confidence in the services that you're providing and the steps you have to go through to provide it, you should be able to answer any questions. And again, if I can't explain it, it doesn't exist. And I wish more bookkeeping accounting service providers would adopt that. How much confidence, my gosh, can you imagine their level of confidence? So many service providers out there, and I'm sure you've heard this too. They say, I am terrified that my client's going to ask me something I can't answer.
Yeah.
Why do that? Why bring that on yourself,
Yeah. So here's a question. You've been running your business now for a number of years. How do you feel as an entrepreneur, your life has benefited having run now a successful accounting business?
Oh, wow. There's so many ways, but I'm having fun. I'm just having fun. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I went to my high school reunion, and all of these people are talking about, their retirement plans. They've retired, or, they've got their 2-3 year plans. And I'm like, I'm just getting started. I'm having so much fun. Why would I quit now?
Yeah.
I have an assistant. She's been with me for 18 years. Her name is Lori. And it's crazy because every Monday we come in and we're like so happy to get the week started and share, our family time and whatever we did over the weekend, but then we're so excited. And I want other accounting service providers to have that excitement, to feel that every day, and that they can control what their journey is. That's been huge. I'm not a follower, so working for somebody else is a little harder for me.
So you've clearly enjoyed being an entrepreneur. You're just getting started. You love what you're doing to the point that you want to keep going. That's wonderful. So I'm curious what you're grateful for.
Oh my gosh. Without getting weepy, I'm truly grateful for my family. My When I was 2 years into my business, I had twin boys.
Mm,
And they've grown with me. I used to have, when they were really small, I had French doors in my office, and I hung those 2 little Johnny jump up things,
oh,
and
yeah.
so I had my twins in my office door just, we're all laughing and carrying on. My husband, of course, has always been just my greatest support, always, and we just have a really wonderful family. We're very tight-knit. I have, so my mom-in-law has lived with us for 18 years. She is the cutest little tiny Southern lady you'd ever want to meet.
Uh-huh.
Um, we have our twins who live with us still, younger people, they're 23 now. It's harder for them to get out on their own, as we all know. And we have added 3 young men to our home, and they're just wonderful. They were destitute around the age of my sons. And my son came home, one of them came home one day and he said, he's going to be out on the street. And I said, he's never going to be out on the street. So I said, go get him here. Then his brother, we brought his brother in. And then somehow we ended up with a stray. And so now I have 5 young men around the age of 20, a man's man of a husband, and I just bought a male dog. I've got a lot going on in here,
Yes, you do.
but my gosh, the fun and the family and the support and just that just means everything.
So you mentioned your twins. I'm curious, now that they're older, they're young adults, what do you believe or hope that they've actually gained from watching you run a successful business, being an entrepreneur, taking those risks? What do you hope that they've actually learned from that experience, watching you as their mother?
That nothing can stop them, that they can go out and try and do anything, but to get out there and try, put yourself out there, risk something. Don't stay in some kind of a safe place, challenge yourself. And they have. They're amazing young men and they're not afraid to go out and try something. And I've told them now at this age, I said, you know what? If you get a job right now and you find in a year or two, because you got to give it some time, that it's not the thing that you thought it was going to be, then go find something else. There's no shame, there's no failure, right? There's only other opportunities.
So when it comes to your business, obviously you're very grateful and your family is seeing the benefits of all this. What excites you about the coming year? You indicated earlier that you're just getting started. Give me one thing that you're excited about as it relates to your business in the coming 12 months.
I really believe that with these rolling out of these resources and bookkeepers and accounting people starting to understand it's not that hard. Break it down into its simplest of elements and then build on that. I want to create more opportunities to reach those people where they are. And that's one of the challenges with people coming into our world. They think they have to start with understanding everything And then they're going to price their fees based on what somebody else charges. That is not a successful business model. Influencing those who are just getting started. And at GrowCon, oh my gosh, I met so many people. Charles, the gentleman who had completed his program in the fastest amount of time. I think he also got the highest score. Amazing young man. Now that he's accomplished all of that, he doesn't quite know how to start his business. Can you imagine somebody with all of that knowledge, skills, and experience being stymied because they don't know where to go from here?
Yeah.
I want those shining stars I want to help them get ahead of the game. Don't struggle. It takes 3 years for somebody starting out. It takes them 3 years to really get their business in a rhythm and really start becoming profitable. With the whole methodology that I've created, I can show people how to do it in 3 months rather than 3 years. Now, obviously, that's an excessive case, but I can help young entrepreneurs go further in a shorter amount of time. And that lends to our entire market segment success. We're elevating the confidence that people have in accounting service providers again. We need to reestablish that the confidence, the accuracy. There's a word that I'm looking for and I can't reverence. Accounting service providers and what we do, there should be some reverence around that. And instead, it's been a community of chaos for far too long.
Yeah. Well, I'm all about elevating the profession. I'm all about making this something that we can be proud of, and clearly the services that we're providing a difference for our clients. So I like that. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start wrapping this up. And as I do so, I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. But in wrapping this up, I do want to mention to our listeners that what Laura has done is she's provided to us a book that you can get at discount. And with your purchase of it, also receive her pricing sheet. She actually is offering something that I think you may find valuable. It is essentially her pricing with purpose checklist. So I'd like to have you go to the episode description and get a copy of it, as it is something that I'm sure might actually benefit you as you're looking at your business, the services you're providing, and how you're pricing those. So go to the episode description and find out more about her pricing with purpose webinar and workbook, as well as her pricing with purpose checklist, and take advantage of that today. In addition, I want you to go to the episode description and there find a book that is called Your Strategic Accountant. This is a book written to actually discuss the 3 core accounting services that we offer as we work with our clients, things that as an accounting profession we should be providing to our clients to help them as businesses make informed business decisions and be profitable in what it is that they do for a living. So as you go to the episode description, check out Your Strategic Accountant and get a copy of the book today. Now, with all this being said, one of the things that I'd like to highlight as part of this discussion is we started with this pricing conversation, really understanding that for many accounting professionals, unfortunately, it is something that they struggle with. And too often, as Laura pointed out, they're just looking around and seeing what everyone else is doing and really not coming up with a solid foundation as to how to explain their own prices. And I think that's very important to understand, simply because when you're challenged by a potential client as to why it is you're charging what it is, it's important to be able to explain yourself. The other thing that I thought was helpful is she broke down the services that we offer as accounting professionals into 3 distinct categories. And in doing so, I think it's helping to compartmentalize, okay, what am I actually charging as I'm providing these types of services? The ultimate being obviously those value added services that so many business clients need. And if we can actually come up with what that recurring billing will be based on the compliance work we're doing and the value added services we're offering, I think it'll become a lot easier for us to price those services, deliver those services, and get paid well. The other part of the conversation that I thought was helpful was the idea of the mindset. I do feel that accounting professionals, at least those that I work with, they do have some struggles as it relates to how to justify their worth, their value, and get paid what they're worth. And so there is kind of a mindset shift that I do believe needs to take place as it relates to how you're pricing your services. One of the things that I thought was also helpful is we were talking about her gratitude. the things that she's grateful for, which is family. And then we had a conversation about her twins and what it is she feels that they're learning as they've witnessed her run for so many years this successful accounting business, and how it's inspired them and perhaps giving them the confidence as they're becoming young adults to go out and be successful. So a lot of nice little tidbits of information here that I think are applicable to what we're doing as accounting professionals, at least in our own worlds, and consider essentially what it is we're doing as our legacy. So Laura, what would you like to leave as a closing thought?
I want to leave everybody with the thought that build your own confidence, truly build your confidence from within. Evaluate your knowledge, skills, and abilities before you get in front of a potential client so you can speak very confidently and very clearly about what you bring. And finally, one more thing. Pricing with purpose puts you in a position of them not being the shark and you being the wounded fish in the water, right? You don't want to be the blood in the water, right? You want to be the one who can tame the shark and go, I know what you need, and I'm right here, and we're going to do this together. And that level of confidence and camaraderie is priceless.
Very good. Well, I like that as a closing thought. So, to wrap this up, what I'd like to do for my listeners is first and foremost, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to have you notified each and every week as we release new episodes. In doing so, you'll actually find that every Wednesday we release something new, basically insights to help you as you're running your business, ranging from marketing, selling, pricing, mental health. We're talking about tech stacks. We're discussing training staff. We're talking about onboarding clients. We're talking about workflows and, most importantly, client retention. All of this built around the idea of having the premier accounting firm in your area. So subscribe now if you haven't already. In addition to that, I want to invite you to GrowCon. Lara was very good to point out that every year we have a conference called GrowCon where we gather together as owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses, and we'd love to see you there. As we prepare for GrowCon, I want to encourage you to pay attention to the announcements coming out and the different things that we're going to be saying in the coming month as we lead up to the conference. The one thing I do want to point out, though, is once you've got your ticket, you'll be notified of the speakers, the events, the activities that you'll want to actually plan and prepare for. Now, as it relates to the coming GrowCon, one of the things that I want to point out is you can go to universalaccounting.com and in the navigation, find the information regarding this next year event. Go to GrowCon, and there you'll get the tickets. You can register, and you can find out what the activities are on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The whole idea is you want to plan and prepare so that you're ready, especially for the gala on Monday night. Now, as it relates to the podcast itself, I also want to invite you to go to universalaccounting.com, and there in the navigation, find the podcast section where we have highlights. This is where we've prepared playlists for you to actually go binge listen to things that are related to your specific situation today. You can dive into the playlists that we've compiled based on the experts' advice related to marketing, related to selling, related to client onboarding, just so many things that I'm sure are applicable to your current situation that you should go listen to now. Lastly, if it basically relates to accounting, feel free to reach out to us here at Universal Accounting Center. Here we actually have training, courses, programs for you to offer quality accounting, bookkeeping, tax services. You can actually train your staff and get them elevated to the point of becoming professional bookkeepers, professional tax preparers, profit and growth experts. Each of these services enabling you to get paid what you're worth. So with that being said, go to universalaccountingschool.com and see what programs are available to assist you and your staff in becoming the premier accounting firm in your area. So also, if you'd like to, you can give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. So always remember, accounting success is universal. Be safe out there and have a great day. Laura, that was fun.
That was fabulous. I want to mention one thing, just sharing this with you. At the conference or going into the GrowCon, I had a mindset. I had intentions. And as we were like the first day and I was making conversations, I was asking people, do you have an intention, anything specific that you're wanting to accomplish while you're here?
Yeah.
A lot of the response I got was, I don't know, I'm just kind of here to learn everything. Right. And that's
open-minded.
Very open-minded,
Yeah.
but also helping people maybe prepare. This is not anything you would do, but just kind of that mindset before you get there.
Well,
top.
clearly, one of the things that we do is we try to address that before they come with various email announcements. But
Yeah.
if you'll recall, on the very first day, in the very first session, I spend basically about a half hour going over what are their intentions and what are
Yep.
their hopes as it relates to not only coming to the conference, but what do they like, what would they like to see in their business? And so I do help them try and really focus their mind to pay attention to and hear what they need to as it relates to either growing their business, leaving with marketing strategies and things that they can use to grow more clients. It's offer quality services. What can they do to enhance the value of the services they're offering? Is it workflow and efficiencies that they need to be focusing on to be more profitable? So we do spend about a half hour at the beginning of the conference helping them get a little bit more clarity as to what it is they're wanting to take home from the event. And I think that is well used. And that's why that journal, as you'll remember, is provided at the conference. We give them that journal, and I'm giving them instructions on how to best organize their thoughts as they're taking notes and leaving, hopefully, with some clear action items. So I agree with you. Oftentimes they do arrive with just kind of this open mindset of, I'm here to take it all in. But we do want to structure everything so that it becomes a little bit more intentional and a little bit more purpose driven. So I like what you're saying there. So thank you.
And
What I'm going
I
to have you do, by the way, I was going
I
to
was
have you go ahead and record that promo piece that I was mentioning earlier, though.
Oh, okay.
So if you can
And
go
I
to the
was
chat, you'll see the text for the promo piece that you can just use, and I'm going to have you read that off.
okay, fabulous. And probably look here, or is this
Yep,
just
just
video?
look right at your camera as you would right now.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to try to do this.
You can just read it if you'd like, if that's easier for you.
Okay. I just don't want to miss saying the name of this for you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and read it. You're totally fine.
Okay. Hi. Hi, this is Laura Shepard. It was just my own, like, exciting,
Whatever
thrilling.
adjective you'd like to use. I've had one person say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So there you go.
Okay. This is Laura Shepard. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with Roger again. We always have wonderful conversations. And to be part of his Building the Premier Accounting Firm is an honor. Anything that I can contribute is just an amazing honor to me. And I look forward to providing more resources in the future. Okay.
Well, what I want you to do is do it again, but I want you to, in your own words, summarize what you thought we discussed. And then at the end, invite the people to listen and join us.
Okay.
So you're just summarizing what we just had as a conversation.
Okay. And I can just start from there?
Yeah, we'll start at the beginning.
Okay. This is Laura Shepard. It was an absolute honor and joy to speak with Roger today on his Building a Premier Accounting Firm. We talked about pricing with purpose, and that is setting your intentions and understanding your knowledge, skills, and experience so you can talk about that confidently when you get in front of a client. So pricing with purpose is an important function as an entrepreneur. I'd like to invite you to listen to this podcast and others Roger shares in his Building the Premier Accounting Firm.